Welcome to the Ephesiology podcast, a podcast dedicated to the study of the early Christian movement and its implications for the church today. Today, we're with Michael, our resident ephesiologist, Andrew Johnson, associate pastor at Neartown Church in Houston, Texas. I'm Matt Till in the suburban sprawl of Chicago, Illinois. And today we have a special guest, Michaela Cooper. Michaela, hi. And any relation to perhaps Michael at all?
None at all. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm his daughter. I've survived so far.
25 years in, and we're still going.
25, just about.
And you're comfortable sitting next to each other for this podcast, huh?
Yeah.
No silence.
I was going to say, they're like, I guess we have to be.
We love it. We love it. Yeah, Michaela, we're glad that you joined us today. And there is a particular reason why you're joining us. It's because the topic that we plan to address, and we're talking about this idea of just really wanting to support and come around parents in this light of really the pandemic, and just also too, like, how do we, as parents, about discipling our children is really becoming an important topic. Churches are wrestling with how are we going to continue to reach the youth of tomorrow and today, right? And there's all sorts of other kind of things that we're dealing with within the culture of the church that are happening. And we kind of wanted to get a little perspective today, rather than just having kind of three old guys talk about what does it look like to disciple kids.
Okay, hold on. I mean, I know I'm getting older, and Michaela, just don't you dare call me an old guy. As long as we're doing this podcast, if I can just operate under the guise of not being an old guy, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I appreciate you guys, and I love the way I've been watching you guys parent your kids, and it just brings back such great memories of us parenting our children when they were younger. But now we have really an awesome, I'm not exaggerating, just an awesome experience and rewarding experience of having adult children today and still being a part of their lives. And now I have the privilege of having one of the three most important children in the world sitting next to me.
Your favorite daughter.
My favorite daughter.
Well, that was going to be my question is, we got to talk favorites here. Never mind. We won't go there. This is being recorded. And
the benefit of having two sons is you get to always say that I'm the favorite daughter.
Yeah. That, true to that, right? True. Well, so, Michael, let's get into this a little bit. Why don't you set us up here, and maybe we can then peg Michaela with all sorts of questions and ask her all the dirty secrets about you and your family.
Right. Yeah. Well, how do I set us up for this? You did such a nice job, Matt, in talking about the situation today in our country and in many parts of the world. One of the concerns that we had and we continue to have is for parents. So often youth ministry is thought of in terms of a program at a church that we send our kids to, and we let discipleship happen there. And that's a good thing. But so frequently, parents kind of wash their hands then of the discipleship responsibility. Not willingly, I don't think. I don't think it's intentional. I think parents today are under an incredible amount of pressure with their jobs and with providing for their families and other stress that we experience in our society today. And so we realize that. But at the same time, we think of Ephesians 6, that great admonition of the Apostle Paul, that we really have a responsibility to train our children, to disciple them and mentor them so that they grow up in the faith. And so we want to spend, and we are spending the next several weeks talking about what that looks like. And And I don't want by any means to suggest that we perfected it, because there are many places where we've failed. That we have failed, not our children, but as parents, we failed. But I am so grateful that God has blessed us with 3 wonderful children, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity to hear from Michaela about some of her experiences and what we can learn from a child who was raised in a Christian home and actually turned out okay. I think she turned out okay.
I think so.
You think so?
Maybe.
Right.
We should ask her that question. Michaela, do you think you turned out okay?
Not okay.
This is the part where I was expecting Andrew to have like some like huge question that he was going to jump in with and ask, but it didn't happen. So I'm like, wow, there's awkward pause now.
Well, it was a super great awkward pause, because what happened was I scrolled over, because now Michael is hosting this Zoom spot, whereas normally I do. So I couldn't text both of you. So I was trying to get over and quietly text you a thought, and then it got quiet, and I thought all of my audio dropped out. And so I came back really scared. And then I have 3 sets of eyes staring at me, like waiting expectantly. So here is my tack. I was thinking, okay, hey, what if we did this? Michaela, what if we asked you, what are 3 just really, I don't want to say awesome things, but 3 favorite things about your experience as a child of the Cooper household? And then after we glean from you and we laugh at Michael a little bit and have a guffaw or 2, then maybe actually ask a little bit more detailed to drill in and say, what are maybe 3 things that stand out for you about how your parents, again, not just Michael, but how your parents intentionally raised you towards Jesus and towards what God has called you to as a child of the King. So kind of 2 tacks, and I want to set that up in front just so that your first set of answers don't step on your second set of answers. So maybe what are 3 things about the Cooper life that are just some of your favorites looking back?
Yeah. Well, right off the bat, the first thing that pops into my head is we spent a lot of time reading books together, particularly the Chronicles of Narnia. I remember being real little, and we would read a chapter or 2 each night and just kind of talk about that as a family. So that family time, really spending it together to talk about, topics, to talk about the Bible, and pick it apart together, really sticks out and was kind of fun. It's a good way to introduce theology to small children.
Okay, so I need to know, was it your dad who read it or your mom?
It was you. I think you read it out loud.
Yeah.
Did he do the voices?
No. No.
Are you kidding me?
Michael,
you robbed
Do you
them.
remember?
You robbed them.
I'm sure I did. I have no vocal creativity.
That's so funny. Okay,
I might be creative in other ways, but vocally I am not.
We can't stop you from writing books now, but when it comes to reading books, you're just vanilla.
That's it. I put people to sleep.
That's true.
It is true. And I don't even have to be reading the book. I mean, they could be reading the book that I write, and I still put them to sleep.
A man of many talents. A man of many talents. Okay, so Michaela, so reading, the parental, the experience of reading, and just getting some of those theological things at least broached through the reading. That was one. What was another favorite?
Definitely mission trips. We spent, I don't know how much time in elementary school traveling. It kind of seemed growing up that everything turned into a mission trip at some point. We would take a family road trip to go somewhere and have to stop at a local Mormon church and check that out and learn about that. But we also did more specific trips, specifically in middle school. We all got to take a trip and kind of hang out and see what it's like to be out on the mission field, and kind of get to experience other cultures too and see how um, Christianity is not just here, it's not just in the church, it's not just in your family, but it's global and it has those global
Mm.
applications too.
Yeah, so one of the things that I did with our kids, and I'm so glad that I did. I will never regret this, and the only thing I regret is not doing it more often. But I took each of the kids on an international trip, just them and me. So Michaela and I went to Uruguay several years ago, and just it was fun,
It
wasn't it?
was a lot
We
of
had
fun.
a
It was a
great
lot of fun.
time.
And of course, we studied the Bible while we did it. So mine was uh, Second Timothy, I think.
Second Timothy,
Yeah.
yep. I did the same with Zachary. We went to where did we go? Oh, we went to Uruguay
Yeah,
originally, and
yours also went to
we
Columbia
went to
too.
Colombia, and then with Christopher to Romania. Just he and I, and they were just wonderful trips of us bonding together. Uh, being on mission together as a father and a daughter or son, and just a very special time to share that together, but to share the vision for what God is doing around the world.
Was this also were you able to do this as part of, like were you being homeschooled at the time as well,
Yeah.
Michaela?
Yeah, so we went to public school for elementary and high school, but middle school, we were pulled out for those 2 years, and homeschooled by my mom, and then got to go on trips occasionally, and just really dive into the Bible and learn more about theology, and, we had a really awesome curriculum that kinda combined Christianity with, science and history, so you got to see how everything worked together, and it made it a lot more tangible.
I gotta
Okay, so
imagine just
yeah,
having
go for
that
it, Matt.
homeschool, of experience obviously provides and allows more space for these kinds of things to
Mhm.
take place. The average parent you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that during the school year," or when can we get out on that mission
Yeah.
field and do something like that? Obviously, there's times for that, spring breaks, the summer,
Mhm.
things like that. I'm sure parents can get creative about. But obviously your experience allowed that. Your dad too. Michael, were you working a lot on the mission field at this time too? Was it also kind of just in concert with your work at the time?
Yeah, it was in concert with our work. We were doing what's called business as mission. We're part of starting businesses in different countries, and use those as opportunities to travel with the kids and so on. And that is, I mean, it really was a privilege for us, and we were able to do that. But we were able to do that because we committed to it. We decided, Lori and I decided early on that we wanted her to stay home as much as possible with the kids, so that they would always have, that parent in the home when they came home from school, and that there would always be somebody around, and um, yeah. So we made a commitment, and that created sacrifice for us. I mean, we're a two wage earning family, and so that put some constraints on us of in terms of what we could do financially. But it, I mean, I think we did the things that we needed to do, and the Lord blessed those, and we're very grateful for that. It's interesting that Michaela mentioned that she was in public school, and all three of our kids went to public school through elementary school,
Mm.
and we made the deliberate decision for their middle school years just because of the climate in middle school, and we know that those 2 years in middle school are so formative, that what happens to the child's brain in those 2 years, both on an intellectual level but also on a social level, it can determine really the direction of a child's life. And so we were committed to using those 2 years to build into them spiritually, emotionally and intellectually. And we're so grateful that we're able to do that. And then we were done with him and we sent him back to high school.
Threw
And
us back in.
Back
threw
to
him
the
back in.
wolves, they might say. No, I'm just kidding. So, Michaela, do you feel like that was a beneficial time? I mean, your dad speaks very highly of that.
Oh,
How intentional it was. Do you feel like you're able to kind of echo that and say, "Oh my gosh, that was very important for us in that season of time in our life"?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I've said before that I would like to do with my kids too, way in the future. Uh, yeah, I think that was a really good decision. I gained a lot out of it. You build a lot of resiliency in your own faith when you take that time. For us, we had 2 years to just build up our faith and kind of make it our own. So it became more of our identity and more of our core um, than something that our parents do or our parents believe. Um, yeah, so definitely having that time to really grow and learn and discover what Christianity is and who God is and how that works in our life before we were chucked back to public school.
Do you feel like that that experience then just maybe helped equip you or empower you then for just kind of the like current life right now? Even going into maybe a public school environment. I know we could have that conversation, which we won't today, but just about people I think fall on all sorts of spectrums depending upon how they feel about the public school system and their involvement with it. For some people, it's for them. For others, it's not.
Mhm.
But even just kind of thinking about those formative years, what could you tangibly even just point to and say, this I think shaped me and prepared me for the years to come?
Yeah, that's a heavy question. So I would have to say just having that consistency, consistently being in the Bible every single day was part of our school curriculum for those 2 years. And you build up a resiliency, you build up the ability to be able to, once you're in those public school settings, to really defend your faith and know why you believe what you believe. So it becomes more than just saying like, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I go to church. I do youth group," and it becomes more of your identity. So when you're in those public settings and someone comes against you with a question or a judgment, you have so much behind you, so much experience, just that ability to draw on those years of being in the Bible, and seeing it lived out to kind of defend your own faith to these people.
And that happened, didn't it, in high school?
Oh,
And
high school was rough. Yeah, yeah, it did. Um, yeah, high school was very interesting. We went to a pretty difficult high school. Lots of things happening. Lots of people who weren't too kind to Christians. Um, and you did run into those situations where I've had friends challenge me on my faith. Um, and I mean, I'll be completely honest, there was some doubt every now and then where someone would raise a good point, and you would have that moment of doubt and have that like, well, do I believe do I believe what they're saying is true about my faith? But because we had those 2 years, because we've had, a good foundation, when we had that doubt, even if we fell back a bit, we'd hit that foundation and spring back. Um, so we had such a solid foundation that we were able to kind of draw on that to push us forward and push us past those doubts.
I've got to think about, there's probably some parents maybe listening in, and some are probably like, yeah, I feel
Mhm.
equipped. I could maybe do this if maybe they're considering what does that look like in my life or my children's lives. Am I able to do something similar, like what your parents did with you, Michaela? Maybe they're thinking about some sort of alternative ways of trying to incorporate some of the same idea. But I gotta imagine it's gotta be a bit overwhelming for some people just to even begin, and I think probably a number of people are thinking, "Isn't that the purpose of the church? Isn't that why I go to church? Isn't that why you
Mhm.
do Sunday school and youth group? Isn't that the purpose, for the church to provide this, dare I call it a service, or a
Mhm.
program, right? A goods and services kind of exchange. As this is why I send my kids to youth group. I expect them to help and to partner with me as a parent in doing this. But what would you say to that parent, Michaela, who's
Yeah.
maybe kind of thinking is a little torn, going, I don't know if I got the time for this. I don't have the resources. I don't know if I have the knowledge, the wisdom for it.
Mhm.
I've relied on the church, and I feel like that's where it kind of belongs. But what would you say to that parent, as a way of encouragement, perhaps?
Yeah, that's something I've actually been thinking a lot about, especially with the pandemic and with kids being at home more often. But I think it's almost we almost have too much of a reliance on youth group and Sunday school. That's just
Almost.
my honest. Okay, I have some agreement.
What was the place for you growing up,
Mhm,
or and maybe even looking back? Let's not just you today looking back,
mhm,
going at what level or value, what were those ministries, the children's ministry, youth ministry?
mhm.
The youth pastors and the children's ministry pastors are listening in right now
Yeah.
as well. So I don't want to put the pressure on you. But I'm just saying, like, at what level do you feel like, because you're getting this other experience at home,
Mhm.
where was this couched in your discipleship? How did you see it? Maybe you wouldn't know it in the present, but looking
Yeah.
back, how do you feel like what place did it serve?
Mhm. Well, looking back, I think since I was in the public school system, it definitely provided those Christian friends, Christian people to grow alongside and kind of figure things out. Um, but also in my case, I had 2 people who were great at answering questions, when I got home. So being able to go on Sunday,
That was Zachary and
um
Christopher, right?
yeah, my brothers. Yeah, my little brothers, of course. They're great at answering questions. Um, but just being able to have a space where you're taught, you're given information, you're spending really our Saturday and Sunday I spent pretty much at church the whole time. A majority of my weekend was spent at church for the weekend. And just having that really focused time to really study the Bible and learn something, but then being able to take home questions and have a conversation throughout the week. So it wasn't just this one time on Sunday we studied the Bible, on Sunday we get taught, but it was a consistency throughout the week. So there really wasn't a moment where we weren't talking about the Bible, we weren't engaging with our beliefs, we weren't, um, living out Christianity.
Mm.
So I think even if even if you don't have the time necessarily to, homeschool your middle schoolers for 2 years, just building that consistency and, even if it's a dinner table conversation, we've had so many so many good dinner table conversations that have extended past dinner, and into the family room just to talk about topics, to talk about the Bible, to have arguments about different things going on, and really just dive into that consistently every single day.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I
one of the things that Lori and I really valued is this idea that every moment is a discipleship moment. So wherever we were,
Every
wherever we were, we took those opportunities. I mean, if it were driving to and
Mhm,
from school or to the grocery store or wherever, if it's walking in a park or doing whatever it was that we did, we always looked at those as being discipleship opportunities
mhm,
and opportunities that we would never have again. And so we valued those moments together, and we're very deliberate about injecting uh, thoughts about the Bible and so on.
Mhm.
It seems, if I could say it in a different way, kind of combining a lot of the things I'm hearing from Michaela and from you, Michael. Again, it's not throwing shade at youth ministries and children's ministries, but if we allow youth ministries and children's ministries to be kind of it, we are allowing an event-based discipleship, that we
Mhm.
disciple when we show up to the meeting, that we disciple when we are sitting in and taking in the lesson. But once that lesson is over, now we have done discipleship, and now we can move on to something else. As
Right.
opposed to what Michaela is talking about is a consistency, is a life of discipleship. It is
Mhm.
a saturation, a gospel saturation through every single part of our lives, so that there is now not a sacred moment and a secular moment, but it's all
Mhm.
sacred and it is all to his glory.
Yeah.
And you all modeled that, it sounds like, or at least she thinks you modeled that. So that's really what's the big
They're
thing.
really good at duping us into thinking that. No,
I
I
will
think
say,
that's a good point. One of the phrases that I use in something that I wrote was the idea of making the kingdom tangible. So not just this one-time thing that happens on Sunday that you participate in, but making it so much of your identity that you can almost like grasp the ideas. You can feel um, what it truly means to be a Christian, and it's not just this one-time thing that you do on Sunday. It's not just a belief that you hold, but it really identifies who you are, and it becomes so much a part of your life that you can't not be that way.
and for those who are looking for more book recommendations, you can check out Tangible Kingdom by Hugh Halter. Tangible Kingdom by Hugh Halter. Okay, so Michaela, we have hit a ton of things. Are there any stragglers in the highlight material for life in the Cooper household?
See, we did occasionally do Bible studies where we picked a book. The most recent one I can remember was Hosea. Just obscure books that really might not be studied anywhere else, and just usually laid out on the floor and read them together, read them throughout the week. That was more high school. Um, and
Yes, that was my question. Thank you for saying that. At what point did you guys start this Bible read aloud? Let's break it down and go into the original language and what does
Mhm.
it really mean? Because I think that's what you did,
Oh,
Michael, right?
so that was actually middle school. I actually got the opportunity. I think it was middle school, right? My 7th grade year. Um, you were still teaching, and I got the opportunity to attend Greek class.
Well,
Now, I
I
didn't
was joking. This is great. Please go on. No,
retain
this is good.
anything.
no, that was a missions class that you
Was
were
it a
in.
mission
Yeah, it
class?
was mission.
Well, all I remember is he was teaching Greek, and I was sitting there trying to do my homeschool work. Um, but I
Take your
mean,
kid to work day. It's great.
yeah, yep. I don't really remember a starting point when we really started diving in. It's just kind of been, I don't know, I feel like it's just kind of our family. We just, we have a question about a verse and we pull out the Greek Bible. Like that's just normal, really. There's always been that deep value for really understanding context and understanding where the words came from and why it's included in the Bible. How does it tie in to the rest of the Bible and what does it mean? That's yeah, it's just in our family.
That is huge. Okay, I don't know if we have got time to hit all the grand mission questions, but Michaela, I made the Greek joke and then you proceeded to say that you took Greek.
Yeah.
Um, for a lot of people listening, and Matt and I might be included here, where we feel already condemned is the wrong word, behind the eight ball, not doing as much as we might want to as parents, slightly shamed. Thank you, Michael Cooper. I am wondering, what is a good starting place? Like if somebody is listening and they are at, I am not discipling my kids like I want.
Mm-hmm.
What's the recommendation? How do you start so you're not going 0 to 60? How can you ease into that? What do you think, Michaela? What do you think, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to open up the Greek Bible. Just dive right in. No, I think a great starting point is asking your kid, even if it's just a simple, like, in passing, just, "Hey, what did you learn on Sunday?" Or, what story did you talk about in Sunday school? Or even as simple as just opening your Bible up to one of the traditional stories, that we hear and just reading it through and then asking them what they think. I think that's a good starting point to kinda open that space up for questions, and start a habit of making sure that your kids know that this isn't just something on Sunday, but it's something that I can ask mom or dad in the car on the way to school, like, "Hey, on Sunday, I remembered we talked about this. What do you think?" And just having that open dialogue, which we did a lot. If it got too quiet in the car, there was a question coming.
So what do you think about
Yeah.
Yeah.
dot, dot, dot.
Yeah,
Michael, go ahead.
to mind related to this. I think one is, I mean, we made it a point, and I guess I did especially to talk about what I was learning in the Bible and what I was studying, and so that would often be and still is a topic around the dinner table. Uh, I get ridiculed sometimes now because of it, because I get stuck on these topics and I just beat them to death. But being willing to talk about the things that you're learning
Mhm.
from the Bible, I think kids enjoy that. They need to see it. And we talked about discipleship before, that it's really is something that's taught more than it is taught. And so kids seeing you live out your life and hearing you talk about God's word and the things that you're learning, I think are important, because they then begin to see
Mhm.
that, you know, this isn't just something that's an add-on to our lives, but it really is incorporated into our lives.
Yeah, it creates
Okay, and if
some normalcy too. Um, so it becomes more than just, this is what I'm doing as a kid, this is what I'm doing and what I'm learning. Um, it becomes like, this is what we are doing, what we are learning, and then it goes further into this is who we are. Um, yeah, more of
that's
a
really well put.
identity builder.
Yeah. Well, and so I love, Michael, you stole words from my head. I know we've said this a lot on the podcast, that so much is caught. It's not always taught. And so, almost in a funny way to reword what you guys had just said, the very first step to discipling your kids is make sure you are being discipled. Like, make sure you are growing, make sure you are in the
Mhm.
word, make sure you are also not having an event based discipleship, that it is something that you are intending to do. And if you want to see that in your kids, you got to see it in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Mhm.
word, Andrew.
We have really taken on that same philosophy and approach even in our own family. That notion of this idea of our faith and our kids' faith will be caught more than just taught. And so, rather than trying to set up more lectures and trying to do more event-based kind of discipleship, it's really been just, this is what we do. This is who we are. We read the Bible. Our kids see mom and dad reading the Bible. We have these conversations. We talk, and then we invite them into that process as well. With the pandemic, we've been doing a lot more family worship time together, and that's been really special for us to be a part of the formation, the spiritual formation of our children. and allowing them to ask questions, and even just to hear their questions are just so insightful at times. It's like, wow, like where did you come up with that? But sometimes just the childlike questions bring about the childlike wonder, and we just kind of sometimes forget. Um, Michaela, just kind of as we wrap up here, I would love for you to kind of cast a vision for us. And you are technically, forgive me, I think you're probably on the later spectrum of a millennial still, right? Are you still considered a millennial? You're not a Gen
Nope.
Zer, right?
Nope, I'm a millennial.
Yep. Okay. So you're on the later end of the millennial spectrum here, which I think this is perfect. I think this is really good. But what I want to hear is just kind of cast a vision for us as to what's at stake as you are, growing up as a young woman in this world. You've experienced, a childhood that you reflect on and speak very well of and very positively of. But you've also have plenty of other friends and people that you grew up with of all different walks of life who have followed in similar footsteps, probably, and others who have not. And you see what your people, your group of your comrades, right, your age group is wrestling with and dealing with today. What's at stake, and why should we as parents and even ministers of the gospel really kind of put an emphasis in this area of discipling our children, and perhaps even thinking and taking that more into our own hands?
Well, I think you could probably do a whole podcast on that.
I'm sure we will.
I'll try to sum it up. Yeah, I mean, so I'm in my 20s, and in college, out of college, it's a very formative time of your life, just trying to figure out this thing called responsibility, and learning how to do the things that were taught in your family, how to do them on your own. So that foundation is going to really play into that. And unfortunately, I've seen many friends. I know of many people my age who fall out of the faith because they don't have that foundation. Because things that happen in the news, in the world, especially social justice, is huge for my age group. So things happening with social justice, all these current events going on really shake faith. And if you don't have that foundation, if you don't have a family to fall back on, if you just have not had the chance to make your faith more than just a thing on Sunday and make it identity, it's very easy to see everything going on and start doubting what you believe, especially with how Christianity can be portrayed in media, and among people who are not Christian, or even people who claim to be. If you don't have that foundation, if you don't build that foundation so that kids grow up knowing what Christianity is, knowing what it's like to have that identity, not just that belief, but that identity, that core being, that normal, like every day, this is who we are. It's very easy to get shaken enough to fall.
So what you're saying is, when we have you back on for a part 2, that we are going to cover not just millennials, but specifically how we go about discipling identity and the difference between identity and indoctrination. Because some might see that as two sides of the same coin, and other people are going to say those are two entirely separate issues altogether. But, let's save that for part 2.
Part 2 it is. I love it. Michaela, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me and grilling me.
Yes, our pleasure. Our pleasure.
It really was fun. Thank you.
Well, and to our audience, thanks for doing theology in community with us on the Ephesiology podcast. We're glad that you are part of the growing Ephesiology global community. You can learn more about ephesiology and get access to free missional resources for you, your church, your leadership teams, all found at ephesiology.com. Well, so for Michaela, Michael, Andrew, and myself, we'll talk again soon, right here on the Ephesiology podcast.